Good evening and welcome again to the Minions of the Zoo. Not so boomer edition this time because Sora's with us. Hi, Sora. Oh, Sora's muted. Okay.
Hello.
She's here though, we promise. And SkepTock.
Hi, everybody.
And Prospero.
Hello.
Okay, hopefully chat is going to not say something like, we can't hear you. Can you hear everybody, chat?
Hello, chat. Can you hear us?
Guess we'll find out in a little bit.
Can you hear me? Can you guys hear me?
Okay.
Can hear all.
Everybody
can hear
everybody can be heard.
down.
All right.
Okay.
So let's
Hey, Joel.
let's do the short version of the hellos so that we can get everybody to sleep.
Jack Gunsky's here.
What is the short version of your life since I last spoke with you, Prospero? How are you doing?
Oh, doing great. Thank you.
How's the smoke?
The smoke is cleared. We were code yellow today, which I'll take compared to the purple.
Okay.
And very much. Also compared to the Mad Max fucking sunsets. They were creepy. They were just creepy.
Everybody goes Mad Max,
sunset.
but Damnation Alley, I think, is probably more accurate.
Yeah, I mean, it's just this hot red ball in the sky at night. No discerning of clouds.
Yeah.
It's just gray sky. Today was blue, sunny, quite warm, breezy. By tomorrow, it's supposed to be all cleared out, so maybe we can go code green, which would be really spiffy. But we really needed the Omega block to begin to break down, and the winds to shift. Our winds were coming from the north.
You should explain what the Omega block
The
is.
The Omega block is when the jet stream comes in quite southerly in, let's say, California. I mean, it could even come in mid-coast and shoots up northerly, usually into Canada, and then drops back down and comes down over the southeast states.
Well, it doesn't matter where it occurs, first of all. But it makes it's just basically the jet stream does this thing where it starts low, goes way up to the north, then goes back down again, and then keeps going like a capital Omega, the Greek letter, right?
And it will drift across the country, but if it sets still, which it was doing because there was a persistent low off the coast of Maine that was kind of prohibiting movement of any fronts. And that can happen. Sometimes you end up with these blocking patterns. It just set up over top of us. So we were getting our winds out of the northwest for days in a row.
It just, all that matters is where you are, which side you're on, right? Because if you're in the big inside part of the Omega, you're experiencing high pressure that you don't usually experience, right? That's just not normal for you guys. That must have been unfun. And it didn't help with the whole situation with the fire, but I'm glad that you can breathe now, which is excellent.
Yeah, I mean, we were right at that rim of the Omega, so the winds were pushing straight down from Canada unimpeded. We never got as bad as New York City. New York City, those pictures are surreal. The yellow-orange sky, the fact they had to call a ground halt at LaGuardia.
Well, I do actually have that as a story for tonight, so we'll be into it soon. Let's just finish our introductions and then we'll come back to this. Hi, Sora.
Hello.
How are things on the best coast?
Oh, very nice. It rained today. It was beautiful.
Okay. It was actually like
Hopefully it
low
put out
70s
fires here.
Yeah. Oh, you have fires?
Oh yeah, like the whole province is on fire.
I'm sorry. That's kind of terrible.
It started early this year, and one of the biggest ones that went wild really quickly was 100% man-made. So why they haven't banned camping fires at all yet, I don't know. I think they are soon.
Or gender reveals with fireworks.
Well, one thing we're not going to cover, there was a story in California where a wildfire was started, and the state is actually going after the parents of the kids who started it and asking them to pay for half of the damages, which is about $650,000 for this little.
Can you sell the kids? Is that allowed?
Oh, okay. Probably.
hate to
Soon.
see you-
That's coming up later in the show too.
So you get like not dog, those Repo Man kind of guys. They're not like Dog the Bounty Hunter, but you get like the Repo Man.
mean,
They show up and they just put a chain around the kid and drag him off with a tow truck.
Well,
Yeah.
the kid's not really useful, but like
His
depending on
organs
their
are.
age, exactly.
Just saying.
You know?
Welcome to Uyghurdom, kids.
Yeah.
I think there's
Oh.
something in the
You
drinking
know.
game about this, but I don't remember which.
What, child bondage and Uyghurs?
Yeah, I don't know. Somewhere in there it
Selling
feels like there
organs
should
on the
be
black market.
there should be a drinking game thing because it's close to the
I
to the
know.
long pig thing. Hi Skep.
How you doing, Harry?
I don't know how much you want to share about all the great things that are happening in your life, but can you give us
Well,
a sample?
I have had some fun with the mutt. We got a new puppy. It's a Chihuahua Antelope cross. It looks like a regular Chihuahua with extremely long legs. It's a mutt we got at the SPCA, and we were over there because we just don't have good sense. And if you're over there browsing, you're going to walk out with a dog. That's going to happen if you're in my family. And so that happened. That they came home with the dog, and took it over. And I guess they thought it was going to be Katie's dog at first, but she already has 6 dogs. And
Jesus.
I know she's kind of a dog lady, and she's a dog and grandkid lady. And but you have to realize she has a sprawling house and a lot that is like 6 regular lots. She really lives in a very, very big house, and
That's a good thing considering she collects children and dogs.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, there's 2 other houses on her property. Just so anyhow,
Wow.
yeah, it's a compound. It's kind of a compound.
You know, YouTube is just such crap. It's still showing me as the preview for the stream that funny thing I showed you just because I thought it was funny. It's still showing this as the
Really?
thumbnail in the preview, but I went and checked on my phone and it looks like we're streaming okay.
You know, some of that is like probably some cache data.
Yeah.
We don't need to worry about it right now.
You might have a lot of stacked
We're already
up
at
stuff.
the edge of our technical limitations. So,
Yeah.
shall we begin?
But
Hey,
anyway.
Austin.
So anyway, make a long story short, I had a great day today. I mowed the lawn, acquired a dog, got a lot of things done, fixed a toilet. That's always a good thing. And filled myself up with ribeye steak and bratwurst and corn on the cob tonight. And now I'm just mellow, you know, it's feeling great tonight. And so I'm just proud to be here and happy everybody's coming out. It looks like we're pretty well attended tonight, Harry.
Yeah, I'm thankful for that. Thanks for bearing with me while we try to make the show better. Because
You guys
really, that's
rock.
what I'm trying to do.
I had bratwurst at lunch. Yeah.
Excellent.
All right.
I didn't.
Well,
Neither did I.
We're very sorry for you both.
I know.
Yes.
It's rough.
we're
So let's see.
we're getting into our German side.
So let's see. So we had we talked about VPNs a little bit last week, I believe it was, or was it the week before? The week before, I don't remember. But we did talk about VPNs, and I mentioned that people put way too much stock in them, and
Absolutely.
recommended doing things like encrypted DNS and other types of things. So apparently this got tweeted by one of those happy fun Twitter accounts. Tweets by feds, and they're making fun of people who say don't bother using a VPN.
Right.
If I'm like a shill for the Fed boys or something, I shouldn't be getting a check, right? Aren't there like
Isn't that the way that
financial
works?
Yeah, isn't that the way that works? I compromise my integrity, and then I get a check.
You're right.
Damn.
That's Jesus.
I don't want to give it away for free.
Confusing.
Yeah. I don't want to. Yeah. Was it you that sent this, Sora?
No.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm going to give you credit anyway because you're here.
I no longer use a VPN.
Thank you.
Okay.
Time, and nor should you.
Thanks for the
it's
advice,
just-
Fed.
It's just not that. It's just complicated because if you have a bunch of stuff that you don't want people to see for whatever reason, not judging, the idea that you're going to send it all, why don't I take all of my traffic and send it through this one place? That seems like a good idea. Because they're
IP
totally
address
not
is
going to
still
log
a
it.
thing.
It just means there's
Yeah.
one place that has to be compromised, and then all of your secrets are out.
I was just going to say that the only thing that a VPN changes is where you have to look to watch who you want to watch. That's really all it changes.
Yeah, the location shifting and stuff is useful. It's a useful tool. I've got 3 of them that I subscribe to because, anyway, we don't need to get off on a
All right,
VPN
anyways,
tangent. I just want to know if I'm inadvertently shelling for the feds, I want to check, okay? I'll even declare it on my taxes. We can do this totally legit. Please,
Legally,
yeah,
yeah.
please send me some cash.
Probably.
Yeah, leave those 85,000 trainees armed.
I'd like some cash for any
Rats,
inadvertent
please.
shilling I may have done in the
Yeah.
past.
I haven't done any lately, so I don't
I was
worry
going
about
to
getting a
say
check.
So have you guys ever heard of cocaine hippos? I know you've heard of cocaine bear,
Awesome.
because who doesn't love cocaine bear? That's
Crack
a movie.
Raccoon.
Have you heard about cocaine bear, Prospero?
Yes.
Okay, so
And
everybody's
Crack
in it.
Raccoon.
Well, it turns
up to
out
date.
that Colombia has what they refer to as cocaine hippos, and I was like, okay, go on. These actually are hippos that are living down in Colombia because a few of them escaped from Pablo Escobar's
Escobar.
drug estate. He was like, I'm a drug kingpin. I should go full oligarch and just get some hippos in. Because why
my
not?
God, that's
Why
a
shouldn't I
great
get some
picture.
vegan murder river cows and just bring them in?
Yes.
And now the hippos are in there and they're laughing. Look at them. They're laughing.
The hippos have gone into
They're
the
laughing
hundreds
at us.
now. There are now hundreds of hippos living in the rivers in Colombia. And it turns out that because there are no droughts and food is really, really abundant and there are no predators, they're
just
thriving really well.
Nothing.
They're
What are they going to
reproducing.
do? Introduce big cats?
Well, they have a series of ideas of what they want to do. Let me not misquote them here.
What about
Crocodiles.
hippo meat?
Well, that was a thing that somebody thought we might raise in the Mississippi. Remember, we talked about that, I don't know, 6 months ago. But
Yep.
maybe it's delicious. I don't know.
Maybe it tastes like.
So in terms of solutions, one of the ways that they've been thinking about doing it is using darts to administer contraceptives to the hippos. I'm not kidding. I'm not kidding.
Oh,
And
I'd love to take a river cruise in Colombia where you just
might as well just read this paragraph.
dart.
One strategy currently being tried is to administer contraceptives to the animals by dart. That might eventually get rid of the hippos by preventing their reproduction, but it's slow,
Tommy, what does your
costly,
daddy do?
and hasn't been tested on hippos on such a scale before. A modeling study published in April estimated that this method could eradicate the hippos in a mere 45 years at a cost of at least $850,000 US.
Oh.
Wouldn't it be easier to shoot them? I mean, come on.
Yeah.
man.
Okay,
I
don't.
Hose them down.
I just hate to be that rude, but you know.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
another strategy is to capture them, anesthetize them, and then transport them by helicopters to have them castrated. Now, they estimate that this would
That
take
sounds
52 years and cost only $530,000.
Every single male. Every single male. You miss one male.
Yeah.
It's as though you have done nothing.
And he's in paradise.
Yeah. And he's like, orgy time every day.
Okay, this is where we need transporter technology. I'd love to just jam the Yangtze with
Well,
these
they're
guys.
talking about sending them to India and Mexico and other places where they have animal sanctuaries, and they say that'll only cost $3.5 million because, what a steal. And down at the bottom in the list of all the things they say, many researchers advocate culling the animals. They say it is the swiftest, most humane thing to do, and that it would solve the problem before it becomes impossible to fix. Well, I mean,
Yeah.
humane to the things that are being displaced by the hippos, I suppose.
Yes.
Right.
But the hippos are they're not suffering. Don't make it sound like you're putting them out of their misery. They are living their best life. They're
No,
just,
Yeah, exactly.
No, the humane thing is the amount of disruption they're going to do to the ecosystem in Colombia because they are non-native.
and they are arguably the most successful hippopotamus in the world.
Aren't they still starving in
They're like
Venezuela?
kudzu.
I mean, isn't the
kudzu.
communist
There
utopia
you
of
go.
Venezuela still short on food? Couldn't we just like have a cattle
Workers'
drive of
paradise.
hippos where we just
Actually,
Send
we
the
could
hippos.
live-
That's brilliant.
combine it, Harry. Okay, let's think like Pinochet.
Sure, let's do that.
We helicopter the hippos
yeah.
over Venezuela
hmm
to be castrated, but accidentally drop them
Which tenderizes the meat.
and kill
And
some
slaughters
commies.
the animal.
Yeah.
And kill some commies on the ground.
Yeah, and take some commies
And you
out.
feed the locals.
And you feed
Yes,
the locals.
and then
yeah,
we
yeah,
feast.
exactly.
And then we feast. See,
Everybody wins. Winner, winner, hippo dinner.
I said in my next life, just call me Augustina Pinochet.
Okay. Well,
I
speaking
have
of
an answer, and it involves helicopters.
speaking of the somebody is typing ferociously. Not sure who it is.
Oh, that was me. I just had to know hippopotamus. The taste is mild, less than lamb, and more than beef.
Okay.
Slightly more marbled than usual.
It sounds useful, actually. It's not as gamey as lamb, but a little more than beef. I think there are a lot of people in the world that would tolerate that flavor,
Yeah.
particularly
there you go.
throughout North Africa.
So it's really not river cow as much as river mutton.
Yes.
Okay.
Sounds like.
Sounds
without
like.
being as gamey. Mutton's more gamey than lamb, so. Oh God, with a little harissa paste mixed with Greek yogurt,
Well,
you could have hippo
Sounds
Now
burger.
that you're talking my language.
Mhm.
That I know exactly what you're talking about, and I love that.
Yeah, and also if you make tzatziki and have that on the other side,
Of course.
and like a little arugula for a little bitter, peppery pop,
mhm.
and some. Pick your bread. You could use naan, but pita's better. That's a hell of a lamb burger, a hippo burger, meat burger, whatever.
Lamb goes so well with non-bread, though.
It does. It goes well with
It goes well with pita. It's fine with
Pita.
Yeah,
and you
I
can
like.
do
I actually
these-
like the texture of pita better than.
If you make a
non-bread.
lamb burger and
But I
use
like the taste of non-bread better. So
yeah, non bread on its own.
yeah,
Yes, lamb and pita go together to me because it's like
well,
A
you probably
gyro.
would- yeah, exactly.
Well, normally we put all of the giggity sort of stuff at the end of the show, but I'm forced to rearrange things a little bit. The pandemic
tonight-
caused a baby boom in red states and a bust in blue states.
way to go.
Yeah. So,
Seize the day. I mean, that is awesome.
yeah. So if I go here, just
That's
look at
pretty
the overall graph of U.S. fertility rates, following the 2008 financial crisis, it's as if economic uncertainty makes people less likely to want to have kids, because it just drops year after year after year. And then at the start of the COVID, on the first lockdown, it just sort of fell off a cliff, and started to recover a little bit after that. So I think it is kind of interesting. But if you look at the states, the ones where Trump won by 10 points, all of those showed big increases in birth rates. So those people in the red states all went home and got busy. And the
Yeah.
people in the blue states went home and like, we can't
And
get a
got on
babysitter.
Twitter.
How is this going to work? You know?
Oh, they hated having their children at home too, so they decided to not have other children.
And plus, there was a lot more anxiety in a lot of the blue states. And again, hashtag not all, but a lot of people in the blue states were sure that, you know, we were looking at some sort of existential crisis. And that kind of didn't do great things for their libido. Whereas the people in the red states are like, well, I
Yeah,
guess we
but
might as well.
It is. If you're on Twitter, you saw a lot of kind of blue anon accounts
Yeah.
just losing their shit because they were stuck in the house with a spouse and their kids. They were having that was their existential crisis, that they might have to homestead for a while. They didn't know what to do because they are so used to being ships passing the night, to having the nanny take care of the kids, or the kid be in daycare and the kid be here and the kid be there. And people were like, oh my God, the kid's cramping my style. Well, then you had the kid to have a vanity kid because you're having other people raise them. You know, I mean, I think you could kind of feel the angst vibrating out of both the Upper West and Upper East Side when people were stuck at home.
No.
I found it amusing.
It is. It is amusing.
I mean, I felt sorry for the kids.
Well, of course.
Because they were stuck with parents that never really wanted them in the first place, except they had to have a kid because their friend, you know, Mary Elizabeth did.
Well, let's look at the slight difference, again, big paintbrush, between red states and blue states. So in a red state, you've got a house that's relatively inexpensive. You've got more room. You might even have room for a pool table. And the kids can go outside and play and talk to other kids, and really there's not much you can do about it. In highly populated urban centers, which is where the blue stuff tends to be,
you're in apartments.
You're in an apartment where you're lucky to have 2 bedrooms. The parents are in the master. Hopefully they've got an ensuite. And then, you know, the one kid is in the room sort of next door. They can't get their normal babysitters because grandma and grandpa are off isolated somewhere. They're just stuck at home with no privacy and thinking that the end of the world is upon them. Now, there's obviously going to be lots of variations on that theme, but it doesn't surprise me in the least that this is what happened.
No.
And I'm sure there are some conspiratorial people who would think that it might have something to do with the jab causing different fertility rates because there were different acceptance rates of that. I mean, it'd be dishonest not to mention it, right? I mean, it would be dishonest to pretend that that's not something that at least somebody's asking. I mean, I don't see any data to support that, but I'll bet you there's people who think that's probably a potential answer.
If there was a whiff of data to support that, that is such an appealing,
Dr.
intuitive.
Did mention miscarriage rates in Scotland having gone up.
Yeah, but I don't know if that's enough to explain this.
No, I mean, it's correlation, not causation, but you know.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that data was reported, Skep.
Yeah. The answer is we don't know. All we do know is that based on the number of kids that were born, there's some pretty startling. You can draw your own conclusions, right?
Well, happiness also leads to a desire to procreate.
Yeah.
And of course, we're constantly being told how ignorant red state people are. Whether that's true or not, we're told that with alarming regularity. Unhappy people don't want to have children. And from what I can tell from purely anecdotal observation and cesspools like Twitter, even when they win, Democrats are angry.
That's fair.
They're angry. They're just angry all the time. Everything sucks to them.
Yeah.
And, you know, folks in Texas and Florida and Georgia, South Carolina, Alabama, and Mississippi, they got pretty good weather. They got great food. They might have high obesity rates, but, you know, they actually could work on that, and maybe they will get around to it.
Well, this graph here, regardless of the reasons, is kind of disturbing. This this reproduction rate graph.
Beginning to match Europe, are we?
You know, we aren't going to solve that problem tonight on this episode of the Minions. Maybe we'll come back to it. But it does seem weird that, well, it's not really weird, but this particular topic keeps coming up over and over again in different stories. And at some point, we're actually going to have to talk about it. But in the meantime,
Northeastern U.S. is dealing with the worst air quality in decades. The New York skyline barely visible, obscured by smoke drifting south from the wildfires burning in Canada. And it's not just New York. The National Weather Service has issued air quality alerts for millions of people as far west as Ohio and far south as Georgia. But it is especially bad on the East Coast, where people are being advised to stay inside. And Major League Baseball games in New York and Philly tonight have been postponed.
Very strange. I got about.
Yeah, I mean, that's not good. I mean, as you may recall, I had a little bit of experience with this myself back in 2020.
Yes.
You know,
I
with
remember
the,
your pictures. I was thinking of them when I was looking at our sunsets.
well, I was looking at the air quality graphs that people were posting, and they had like numbers in the 200s for the air quality index, and I remember at the time I was sending you screenshots showing numbers like 350.
Yes.
And I knew I was in trouble when I woke up in the middle of the night and the whole house smelled like an ashtray. I'm like, what the hell? It's like that was inside with all the air cleaners going. I actually had to start sleeping wearing like a filter mask. Not like a stupid N95 mask, but an actual filter mask, and then bought extra filters and turned them all on. And it was pretty rough. It was not good.
Oh.
So, I mean, I'm not saying that if this is a contest I want to win. I'm just saying I get it. It's probably been pretty shitty for everybody on the East Coast.
Yeah, and during the California wildfires, if you consider the population in New York City, and Philly, and DC, I mean, if you're talking about those cities in the megalopolis, a lot more people have been affected by this. The California wildfires tend to isolate. Now, LA has had this kind of thing happen a couple of times, and of course their population alone, you can start adding East Coast cities up to get to it. But when you have air quality that is bad from Atlanta to Montreal to Toronto to Cleveland back over to tiny little capitals like Richmond and Raleigh and Columbia, there are a lot of people that live in that space. A lot of people. I was just amazed. I mean, the air quality went to shit in North Carolina. And think of how far away Raleigh, North Carolina is from Montreal.
Yeah. The only smoke we want in North Carolina is from the barbecues in North Carolina.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. You know,
the haze needs to be self-generated.
You know, before they changed their shipping policy, I could order 10 pounds of pulled pork from Smithfield's, and they would ship it USPS priority mail.
From Smithfield Pork in Smithfield, Virginia?
Oh, well, no, not the big Smithfield ham thing, but I thought it was Smithfield, but it's like a chain of barbecue places there,
okay.
and it's pretty good. It's pretty good, and I used to be able to get 10 pounds of it, and it was good. It was actually pretty darn good. I miss those days because they stopped doing that. I guess they figured that it doesn't particularly matter. I'm just being nostalgic about North Carolina barbecue. I'm a huge fan of the stuff.
So am I. It's my favorite barbecue.
The Eastern North Carolina, the vinegar based.
Yeah, well, let me get things back onto track a little bit. Sora, do you have any insight into what the hell's going on the other coast of your country? Like, is there any insight that you have as to why these fires are so severe? Is this just a normal thing, or is this that happens every several decades, or is there something more to this?
I don't know about this. I think the one of the worst part was man-made. It was like a fire gone rogue. I think this year with what's happening is exceptionally bad. All the fires in Quebec. I don't know. We are kind of like invested in our fires here. So when I heard it's like, oh, that's unfortunate.
Over there,
Didn't realize how bad it is until people in New York started posting photos, and they're like,
New York went dark.
Pretty bad. We're having international firefighters. They sent France sent a bunch of firefighters to help Quebec, and we've got South African firefighters helping Alberta. So it's bad when the international community is sending specialists over to us. What was really funny at one point, we have a specialized plane or something that helps to fight fires here, and it was sent out of BC because politicians made decisions. And guess what? We don't have it to help fight our firefighters, our forest fires here. So that's good.
Yeah,
Did they send it to Ontario?
Yeah.
Well, we have in California, we've got
we
like
sent it away somewhere.
Yeah, it may be in Quebec. They were trying to explain this to people because of Canada greens out, especially way up north, a lot later than the U.S. does. And so until green out occurs, you've got more tinder, and you get heat and you get stupidity. Because I heard that among all the fires in Canada, the preponderance of them were man-made, accidental fires. No, nobody was speaking necessarily of arson, just carelessness.
Yet, because last year there was a few like severe ones that were, at least here, that were deliberate.
Yeah, we've had that a fair bit in the U.S. It's just obnoxious as shit for
Bastards.
somebody to think that's a good idea.
Yeah.
You can make your point another way, like by not burning millions of acres.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Killing wildlife.
Do we need a palate cleanser?
Please.
Okay, I think we need a palate cleanser. And since Sora's here, I have a palate cleanser that's only if Sora's here. Okay. Here we go.
Okay.
Okay, why are we not getting audio? Extremely rare all-white dolphin Casper spotted off California coast.
It's not a beluga, it's a dolphin.
It's a white dolphin. Who knew there was such a thing?
Nice.
Now, first of all, it's not a fish, so I don't have to hate it.
Right.
It's actually a mammal.
It's not ugly and worthless either. It's kind of a cool looking guy.
Yeah.
Gorgeous, man.
Yeah, so really cool. I guess this is just not a thing that happens very often. But yeah, off the Southern California coast, there's an all-white dolphin. Of course, they named it Casper, and why not?
Yeah, it's a good name.
Yeah.
Well, otherwise, if they put it to vote, it'll be Dolphin McDolphin Face, so...
Yes.
Probably.
Casper the Friendly Ghost Dolphin is much better.
Okay, so let's make fun of this guy. So there's this one channel, and it has the same guy doing this weird little dance, which is more of a, well, you'll see it in a moment. It's more of like a little shimmy to the same music every single time. I don't understand why this guy has quite so many subscribers. I guess it's because he looks like he's having fun while he does it. And I'm not sure why we're not getting audio.
It must be jelly, because jam don't shake like that. There's your audio.
Yeah, it's pretty wild.
Get out and shake that thing.
Yeah, so this whole channel is basically, this guy doing exactly the same thing. Here he is with one of his friends. But he looks like he's having fun, but
Yes,
I mean,
he does.
he's got 1.88 million subscribers. And all of his videos are the same.
Time his face was quite thin based on that picture.
He's going to be dead when he's 50. Let him enjoy his life.
Okay. I mean, at least he looks like he's having fun. That's the important thing.
That's the thing.
I guess.
Days times fun equals quality of life. That's changed my mind.
Okay. Well, let's see. New York skyline. Now the next thing is infuriating. A bill to stop employees confronting shoplifters passed by California Senate. This is not a law yet, but it probably will be. So you've all seen video of the shoplifters coming into shops in California. Mm-hmm. And last week we talked about these people that got fired for obstructing the shoplifters. I think they were supposed to hand them like complimentary Lululemon bags or something to help them carry their merchandise, their bread out of the store. I don't know. But the California State Senate has taken it upon themselves to pass a law making it illegal for you to actually try to slow them down if you work at the store. And they're claiming the reason for this is so that employers can't coerce people into putting themselves in harm's way stopping the protesters. Excuse me, that was a slip. Bread collectors.
Said they're gonna. Why don't you just legalize theft and make it easier for the level?
Well, they essentially have. Well,
yes, they have.
Yeah.
They can cloak it this way. I mean, if I managed one of those stores, I would tell people, let them go. Just let them go. Do not
Can you
run
imagine?
the risk of someone shooting you over this shit. It's not worth it.
Prospero, can you imagine the legal situation of a shoplifter who sues an employee of a shop who failed to stand aside in a timely manner, and which led to the injury? And can you imagine? They'll probably get a giant. There will be a case like that. You wait and see with this.
It's like as I was exiting the person's house with their belongings, they shut the sliding door on me and broke my hand. I'm suing them. And it's California was the first state to roll over on that kind of thing and turn the law topsy-turvy because someone needs to care about the criminal class.
These are the end times for California.
They absolutely are. And let it go, Mad Max. I'm sorry, Harry. You're in a actually pretty good place.
I'll come for you, Harry. I'll come pick you up, bud.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, I mean, you can evacuate by boat. It'll be like Dunkirk. It'll be fun.
Yeah.
Just get on your bike, get down to Monterey, get the fuck out.
Yeah, I'm gonna work on that. Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
I'll just basically put an imaginary girlfriend in the back and have her hold a few 5-gallon tanks of gas, and we'll just be good to go.
Go down through the Panama Canal and then come back in through Texas, and we'll hook you up.
That's good.
It might be better to just pack your shit, get in the car while you still have gas in the state, and leave. I do think they're eating their own now.
Well, but wait, there's more, and I really don't want to just constantly talk about trans stuff all the time. I mean, I don't know if you guys subscribe to Rose of Dawn. I've spoken with Rose. She's very, very nice, and Rose basically said, ever since I transitioned, I'm very happy with my life. Absolutely, don't throw any shit at people like Rose of Dawn. She's very, very nice, and
she doesn't want to hurt kids either.
She doesn't want to hurt kids or do any of this other stuff. But these freaking people who think 7-year-olds should be able to sterilize themselves. It's like, so what they want to basically do is declare it child abuse if you don't just go along with whatever the kids come home with from public school. Yeah.
Wow.
Under California's
And
EB
you're
957.
that they're not having kids?
I'm surprised. Yeah, I'm surprised this hasn't happened before. A parent could lose custody for not affirming whatever their child believes about their gender.
Get this. Pass this, please, and then get it before the Ninth Circuit.
Yeah.
Get it before the Ninth Circuit because, even the Ninth Circuit's not going to support this kind of... This is going to get shot down.
This seems really radical.
It's beyond radical. It is complete interruption of parental rights in order to actually abuse children. I mean, if you're following what I'm saying, the parent does not want their child mutilated, either through actual castration or chemical castration.
Does the state have an interest in forcing the mutilation of the children?
That's the question I'd ask if I were sitting on that bench. Isn't it one you'd ask?
Pharmacological
warfare,
or subsidies from the manufacturers of the hormones.
Wow, that makes them almost worse than Mangala humpers.
Yeah,
it's pretty bad.
Look, Mangala never even sought to capitalize through big pharma his stuff. These guys are taking it a step further. I'd like to congratulate them on their complete lack of a human soul.
One day at a time.
There aren't enough palate cleansers to make this okay.
No, nuke it from orbit.
All right, so
But
What's
like with the declining birth rate and stuff, like if you see all of this stuff going on, right, and you live in this state or any states who are thinking this, you don't want to have kids, or you know you're not going to have rights over your own kids. Say you want kids and you love them, but you can't move out of the state because you just can't at this date and time. You're not going to want to come in and have children with this political
point.
climate and
You're
all of this stuff. Like
sure not
I
going to want to
like just
send to
looking
public
at all
school.
this. Well,
Very,
yeah, but
very good point.
you would be basically put in a position where you are going to have to, okay, we are going to have to financially plan to the
Mhm.
penny for the next 20 years. Like when would be a point that we can start affording to try for a kid because we've put enough away to send them to, if not a semi-private or like, I don't know, say screw it, we're sending them to a religious school. At least here for us, if you send them to a religious school, it's technically private, but it's also semi paid by, like it's some like it, you don't pay as much as you would at an actual private school. You know, it's a third of the price, so it's more affordable, but you have, you just like send them to the religious school, whatever it is, just take them out of the actual fully public institution. Whatever it is that you decide to do, whether it's homeschool, well, that's going to be a financial burden on the family because one of the parents is not going to be working. So all of the, if you think about this, it gives me anxiety thinking about it, and I'm not in this situation, right? It's no longer the yay, let's have a family because it's fantastic. No, now you're going to have to think of like, well, if I decide to have a family, I risk losing. I risk
Control
just
over
basically
it.
creating a creature to feed to the government or something. I know that
Mhm.
sounds really
Dystopian, but that's what it
uh,
is. I mean, people, particularly in the urban environments in California, who are surrounded by this, if they are not a part of it, they're just caught in the milieu, are thinking, I'm not going to have a kid to sacrifice to the state. This is. It's been said that the lesson taken from Abraham going up the mountain fully willing to sacrifice Isaac and God pulling the pin is a transition between sacrificing your children to the gods and not sacrificing your children to the gods. Because child sacrifice had been very popular and prevalent up till then. But then Yahweh says, we don't do that. It's not how we roll.
Or was he saying, I'm tired of it?
He might have said, I'm a little sick of the blood loss. Thanks for all the livers and shit, but I'm done. You can do goats, okay? But you're
unblemished.
But you're now looking at the state endorsing child sacrifice.
Yeah.
Because when you take away the reproductive capability of a reproducing species, you're sacrificing them.
Can I ask you a question? Who are these doctors? What the hell kind of doctor castrates a 7-year-old boy?
Somebody who really whacked off to Fabian socialist porn. I don't know.
No, I'm dead serious. Who out there who has gone through a surgical residency, is a board certified surgeon, is going to do that to a child? Tell me.
A eugenicist.
It blows my mind that
there are that many. There apparently that many of them.
This is fine.
Yeah, this is fine.
I mean, I've worried about that.
Hey, speaking of great things, if we needed I don't know when to introduce this, but one of the things that we went through last week was the anniversary of D-Day, and I just wanted to share a picture with everybody and make one brief comment about the picture.
You're going to have to send me a link to the picture in the private chat, because I can't do what you're wanting me to do because we're not using StreamYards to send it out.
No worries.
Okay.
We're going to play the we'll do this with sock puppets, as we used to say in
Yeah.
when the demo blew up. And so imagine the view out of a landing craft, and it's filled with young men, many of whom are going to die. I just wanted everybody, I wanted to remind everybody that those guys were getting paid $21 a day.
If that.
No, that was the rate of pay for a U.S. soldier on D-Day. I looked it up. I looked it up in the DODPM in the Department of Defense pay manual. It had the
For
historical
infantry.
rates. Yeah, that's what I used to do. I used to compute pay in the military. I knew exactly how to do it, and it was $21 a day. You didn't have to compute anything. Everybody got the same basically. And then there were extra allowances for uniforms and things like that. Pay was handled completely differently back then. Anyway, how I do go on. Those guys made $21 a day, and were happy to do it. Came back and built an amazing country, and
The ones that weren't cut down.
it doesn't hurt us to remember them once a year and remember their bravery.
Yes.
Which is
I've never
why
been
the
able to
espionage
not do
of
it.
Donald Trump is so serious, Skep, because I can't even
God.
pretend to do that. I think this
Excuse me. Can I ask a huge favor of you? Do you mind if I step away and refuel on some nicotine before I even have to listen to this?
Take a shot of whiskey too. That'll help.
I know I'm just going to grab a beer. I don't.
Well,
care
in the
how late it
meantime,
is.
I'll pivot to this. Are you with me, Sora?
I'm here.
I'm with you.
Okay, so I don't think you spend much time on Twitch. No offense, Skep.
No.
So
I do have an account.
Oh, this is so
yeah.
stupid.
yeah, so there's
Oh, this is the death.
Yeah, so Twitch has been they've been losing content creators, right? And just having all sorts of problems running their business. Now they're owned by Amazon, as I understand it. And so they've come up with some brilliant plan. Why don't we just make it so that people on Twitch creating content can't stream to other similar streaming services when they play their games and stream? That'll fix everything, right? We'll just kill the competition by saying you can only use Twitch to stream. Genius.
Oh, so dumb. I've already seen there's a few people who are like, okay, well, YouTube it is.
I think Linus Tech
this
Tips
is a-
was saying, well, we're going to do it anyway, and let's just see what you do.
Well, they can do it for a short time and see, for data collection, statistics. Why not?
Well,
See how
if
many
people
they
just
actually
move
lose.
on.
I mean, it's gonna be mostly booby streamers then, because just talking, that kind of stuff, because I don't think they multi-stream, so that's okay.
Yeah.
They can switch audiences.
Okay, as I understand it, the thing about Twitch is they're doing video games, so they care about higher frame rates because it looks like shit with low frame rates, right? So you have to have clear video, and you have to have a decent frame rate, and you need low latency so that people can carry on a conversation with the chat, the people that are talking to them. So that
What do you
kind
consider
of
a good frame rate?
well, you probably want at least 30 for what they're doing, trying to show
30
these
at
games,
least. That's what
at
I was
least.
thinking.
So
Okay.
So the thing about YouTube is YouTube, and I figured this out the hard way, doesn't let you do low latency at higher resolution. So as you increase the resolution, they also increase the latency with the chat. So YouTube is not a good substitute for Twitch. I don't know about other streaming services, but this policy change smells like the act of a desperate manager trying to salvage a situation. This is like when Nixon decided to just say, well, we just won't let people raise prices. Look, inflation solved. It's that level of herder. Are there any good competitors to Twitch that you know of, Sora?
I don't, because this is not really my wheelhouse, but I see Hammer in chat is talking about Kick.
Oh, Kick, yeah. I think that's the big one that they're worried about that seems to be picking up more streamers.
Oh, and then the other, D Live is dead in the water, kind of. Like that was popular for a short time a couple years back, and it went nowhere. And yeah, I mean, this sounds bad. The only reason I'm on Twitch is because, friends and acquaintances have streaming, so you subscribe to them to support, right?
Yeah.
And then if you have the time and they're live, and you go watch them, and that's it. I don't really hunt randos to join per se.
Yeah. Well, I guess we'll
Yeah,
see what happens.
so-
I mean, I know for some people this is like a huge deal. Geodes is the one who originally sent me this article. He's
general,
one of the youths.
yes,
Yeah.
I would agree, because it's like, if this is where, if how are you supposed to diversify and stuff if you are stuck?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know.
I just feel like you're asking for your users to rethink their choices and using your platform. But it's not just that. It's not just this. There was another issue that they've changed that is worse. And I think it was something to do with how you can advertise sponsorship. So it's like, you're not supposed to, they don't want you to have large banners anymore or stuff like that. It's something to do with what can be on the screen,
Mhm.
which is absolutely dumb, because it means that if you're part of a player group, so like, I'm gonna show my ignorance here, but it's be like the Doritos, like, I don't know, COD group.
I don't know.
One of those people, and you have a team, and then there's logos and whatever, and maybe you're being sponsored by a company, and you're streaming as part of that, and whatever it is. Usually these streamers have like banners, they might have little emblems on the screen, like overlays, right?
Mhm.
And now they're editing how much of the retail space of your stream screen you can devote to this, and then they don't even want you to advertise certain things, which I think it's even worse than you can't multi-stream. Okay, you can't multi-stream, whatever. Let's say a majority of people just prefer Twitch, but if your livelihood is based on sponsorships from game manufacturers or from being a part of these teams or whatever it is, right? Just like your ad revenue
Right.
on YouTube. Well, there you go. You've basically killed a bunch of streamers if they're going to start like punishing people for this. So I think that was
Short-sighted.
that's really, really stupid. Well, I mean, your whole point of your platform is for gamers, and gamers are sponsored by teams, and there's competitives, and you've got Fortnite and all the other games kids play, right? I don't know. And so like, it just feels really, really stupid, a choice. I have no idea why it was made.
Yeah, it's just a race to the bottom. I mean,
Penguin Zero,
yeah.
he did a more comprehensive video on it.
Well, it'll be fun to see how it turns out. I think we should go back to this Trump thing. Are you following this at all, Sora? Is it fun being not in the United States and watching us just try to eat ourselves?
Yes. The taking to the bathroom with him, that popped on my radar, yes.
Well, there's a bunch of stuff in this that makes no sense. So, first of all, why would Trump need to hide these things to begin with? Legally, why would he need to? And technically, why would he need to? It's not hard to just scan these things. If there was some piece of information that, for whatever reason, he felt that he desperately needed, again, not looking at the motives, just for whatever reason, he's had ample opportunity to make a digital copy of it.
And declassify.
And then he could just hand the document back. So all of these arguments about about him moving documents around. It all sounds suspiciously Steele dossier. You know, it's that
It
same
sounds
level of like, what are you talking
hypocritical.
about? Yeah.
Because I'm sorry, an unlocked garage in Delaware when you're a senator, and you weren't even supposed to have them in the first place. Trump had the capability of declassifying anything and everything he wanted to. The president is given extraordinary powers in that regard. And
The problem is, though, that he commented that the papers themselves, that, you know, he did at one time have the capacity to declassify it, but that he had not done that, and he's on tape saying that. So
yeah, it's going to be
it's going to be hard for him.
37 counts. Number one, 37 counts.
I think he's going down. I think
he will.
I think he will.
Will be convicted only because
put him in jail.
37 counts are impossible to defend against. With a normal client, 37 counts. They charge piled. Turley's second article.
When the Republicans win the White House and the Congress, and they will.
Yeah.
The bottom rail on top this time, massa effect, is going to be remarkable. They are going to come after the Democrats with sickles.
Everyone.
Yep.
They'll go after everyone. Schiff will be in jail.
They absolutely will.
Hillary, if she's alive, will be in jail. Biden, what remains of him, will be in jail. Anybody working in his administration will be in jail.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
If they can.
People will leave the country to escape what is going to happen to them.
Yeah, if Trump were smart, he would.
Yeah, I think Caribbean's very nice. Buy an island.
It's not so much the severity of the charges or the damaging nature of any of these documents that is the real problem here. The real problem is this is Levantry Beria level justice.
Mm-hmm.
And
Beria was Stalin's chief of security.
Chief of security, and if you think of him as kind of like if he ran their DOJ.
Yeah.
And
also like the younger set, if you know what I mean.
Yes. He's a horrible human being. Nobody misses him. Khrushchev was a dick. Thank God he came out on top.
That's what Malenkov couldn't look past, was the fact that Beria did what he did with whom he did it. That was one of the things that, Malenkov could have stood up for him. Anyway, sorry.
Yeah, I mean, as bad as Khrushchev was.
Yes.
And he was a rotter. The whole entire world got lucky that the power struggle after Stalin ended with Khrushchev.
Absolutely right.
Because Beria would have been a disaster. Number one, the mass slaughter of Russians would have been stunning, not to mention Eastern Europeans. God only knows what he would have done to Eastern Europe. Because, I mean, he was in his heart of hearts somebody who would make Hitler blush. But he's Mao level evil. And
Prospero, can I ask you about the Turley thing? If I can summarize Turley's position, it's basically that a lot of the stuff that they're charging him with is probably not a real crime. But the ultimate goal here is to get him on obstruction. And on
himself to FBI
and on perjury.
Yes, perjury, and they have. I pity any lawyer that attempts to control Donald Trump's mouth. This is the thing. He will be found guilty on something because the motherfucker cannot shut up to save himself. It's
not unfair.
He is one of. If he were a Democrat, everybody would be spinning this, and I promise you, they would be spinning this as a man from a troubled childhood. Sound familiar? The Bill Clinton string of conversation coming along.
Yeah.
Troubled childhood, an insecure egoist. That great contradiction. That can exist within narcissism. Matter of fact, I think it's almost a prerequisite for certain types of narcissism. Where the ego overcompensates for the abuse.
Mm-hmm.
The inner child is in control, not the adult. And Trump can't shut up to save his life. He cannot fucking shut up to save his life. What kind of idiot says what he said?
One who doesn't listen to counsel is what kind of idiot.
He doesn't, which is why his lawyers keep quitting. It's why they keep disappearing. I mean, they just like fall off the face of the earth. They're not dying, okay? They're not being Arkansided. They're just trying to get the fuck away from him.
Well, he had one lawyer, his name was Trusty, right? And I saw him on Fox in the morning, just a clip, and he was doing what I thought was a good job. I thought, this is a guy, you know, former federal prosecutor that you want as his lawyer. And about 2 hours after I had that thought, he's no longer Trump's lawyer. And I'm like, what the hell is going on with these people?
Yeah, Trump, you know, he was so right about the swamp, but as a result, he almost became so that he wouldn't trust anybody unless they agreed with his assessment of everything. Trump is a naïf when it comes to this level of politics. He's an utter naïf, and it shows. He knew the swamp was dirty. He knew they existed, but he has underestimated them. He's underestimated their vitriol. He's underestimated their ability to find a way to get him, even if it involves lawfare. I mean, nobody gives a shit about Alvin Bragg's stuff, okay? I mean, that is just pure political prosecution. You could bump that up through.
This is different from Bragg, though.
Totally different, because there is meat here.
Yeah, there is meat here.
There's red meat, and it's out of his own goddamn mouth.
Yeah.
He's going to get hanged by his own words.
Hoist by his own petard.
Absolutely, because he keeps swinging his petard where he shouldn't.
He is a deeply flawed individual.
Well, they all are, but
I don't think he's going to see any prison time. I don't think he's going to see any prison time, but that's just like my gut talking. The part of me that says not in the United States could something like this possibly happen.
Oh joy, but not in the United States did I ever expect to see this number of charges filed over something that we know has occurred.
Joy Reid expects prison
constantly.
time.
Well, paper and ink are cheap, right? It doesn't cost them a whole lot to just add extra charges on. In fact, that's half the fun. Let's just throw a bunch of stuff at the wall and see what sticks. And then I still think the ultimate end game is just to get him on obstruction or perjury.
What did Justice Frankfurter say about an indictment? It's a puff of air.
Yeah.
Yeah, except where do you impanel your jury? Where do you impanel your jury? It's not, okay, the hypocrisy in this BBC article in particular.
This is not the worst article I found, by the way.
Oh, no. But, you know, out of the BBC that once upon a time, I mean, I'm nostalgic, Harry.
Yeah.
Once upon a time wouldn't be this breathless about some of this stuff. You know, they're all like, oh my God, it was in this ballroom where there were hundreds of thousands of people that passed through it. And then the shower, it was in a bathroom. Oh my God. Anybody remember Hillary's server sitting next to a toilet in Denver?
Hey, I read all 40-something pages of that FBI report. I mean, I read it for content. I am very well aware of exactly what she did and did not do. But that's a story for another time. I don't necessarily want to spend the entire show talking about this. There's other things we can talk about.
She complied with the law and she won the 2016 election.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course she did.
So let's talk about something
election
else.
deniers are Republicans.
Exactly.
I'm going to save us all from having to deal with this nonsense for any longer. What do you guys think about RFK Jr.? I'm getting some Jeb Bush vibes off this guy. Am I wrong?
He's a little police clap.
Yeah.
The best thing is he's kind of Bernie on steroids.
Of every totalitarian state, the beginning of mankind.
There's the voice.
Yeah, I know, but he's working on the voice.
Again, not my Kermit voice. I'm not criticizing this, but does this sound presidential to you?
No, he's got a pretty awful vocal break, and he has been working on it.
They didn't have the technological capacity.
I mean, there's things I like about the guy. Right? I mean, he's on the right side of more issues than Biden by a lot. In terms of, like, say, immigration,
like his daddy, he hates commies.
They really, I think the Democrats should really be scared about this. I think this strategy of not having debates and the party trying to just pick Biden is not going to go well for them.
They'll keep him off the ballot. He won't be on the ballot in most states. He will not be the Democratic nominee.
But you'll get protest vote. You'll get
what? You get 20% maybe.
How much did Hillary lose for the dirty tricks against Bernie? I don't think anybody's ever really done a good study.
Okay, he is not your regular run-of-the-mill candidate. He's a Kennedy.
Not at all.
He is a Kennedy, and to say that he's got a legacy and his family has connections, you can't treat him the same way as you would some random guy just showing up opposing Biden.
Like Bernie was treated. You can't treat him like Bernie. Because you treat him like Bernie, you do it at great peril, because there are enough people who attach the Elon to the Kennedy name. The other thing is, he's already being classed as a big supporter of conspiracy theories.
Yeah, the press is really circling the wagons around Biden, and it's like, I mean, I'm not a Democrat. I don't really have a dog in this fight. They can nominate whoever the hell they want, honestly. But I don't understand this pretense of pretending that they just don't have to worry about this guy, because I kind of think they do.
But also, they're getting some negative feedback. I mean, RFK Jr. made the comment that this is not Stalinist Russia, and the party doesn't just state who the candidates will be.
Right.
Well, that might give Joe Blue Collar Democrat in Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, Illinois. It might give some pause to some of those guys.
Come on, man.
Yeah, I mean, there's going to be no debates. There's going to be no primaries. Wait a sec. That kind of sounds
wrong.
A little totalitarian.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're thinking that they've got their wedge issues down and that they can pull Trump out of this. They're not. Let's say they convict Trump tomorrow and put him in prison, and there he is, disqualified. Doesn't stop him from talking on the phone to somebody who says, Donald says vote for Ron DeSantis. Not that that's going to happen.
You want to talk about something fun?
Please.
Okay.
Insist.
Okay. Let's rearrange things a little bit and talk about this before we get into a little moral dilemma that I have that I want to talk about.
All right, we are back now with a GPS fail. Another tourist saying it told her to drive straight into this Hawaiian harbor for the second time in weeks. And Eva Pilgrim has
the same
story.
woman?
The same
She decided
harbor.
to use GPS to get here this morning. Eva, doesn't look like it quite made it.
No, I did not make it, and I promise I put in the right address. So this GPS didn't.
Yeah, so basically, GPS has sent 2 different people, I think both women, into the same harbor in Hawaii in the last few weeks.
Oh.
And you just drove into the harbor?
Yeah, well, just
Women-
doing what the
women
system said
can't
to do.
drive, I'm telling you.
Okay.
Okay, so that's like a thing, but
Okay, this is tragic.
But like as I always do, you know, I don't just come with just one story. I always have like another story. So, but wait, there's more. Scrolling.
A GPS route has led a Tustin man to a Canadian jail. According to the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, the man entered the wrong information into his GPS. He ended up at the Niagara Falls border crossing, and they say he didn't have a passport, so they put his car through inspection and found about 400 pounds of marijuana and more than $500,000 in cash.
That's what I'm talking
fucked
about.
up.
Hello, I'm Mark Brown.
That is an expensive mistake. Oh, what an idiot.
Yeah, back in the old days, you'd go to AAA and you'd get maps and then you'd plan out your route and go, yeah, there's a diner here. They've got really good, you know, peach Melba. And then they just, you'd plan stuff and you'd sort of know where you're going. Now people's just like, I'm just going to get in my car and type in an address, you know, while I drive around with half, you know, 40 pounds of pot and $500,000 in cash and just go driving up to the border. At some point, didn't he think maybe it would be a good time for a U-turn? I mean, how hard do you have to not pay attention to not realize that you're about to leave the country you're in?
He was high.
Yes.
This is a drug-related tragedy.
Okay.
And the fact that he thought Google is the person one should ask to get
Kinda
to
says
someplace
it all,
when you're
doesn't it?
carrying. I mean, did he say what's the best route to take dope into Canada?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You know, and then they were just fucking waiting for him.
Use the Swayze Express. Yeah.
The main guys were like, okay, he just went by here.
Sorry, I really like the Trailer Park Boys. I can't help it.
Trailer Park Boys, right.
Did you ever watch the Trailer Park Boys, Sora?
Sort of.
Is it required? I mean, I don't know. They were trying to smuggle cigarettes across the border because of the tariffs are so high. So they used a model train. They set it up in the woods and then used that to try to smuggle stuff. But for some reason, they had to steal the model train locomotive from Patrick Swayze because they needed like a specific model train that had enough power to pull the cigarettes across the border. It makes sense if you think about it.
No, it doesn't.
Okay.
No.
Sorry. I like dumb things sometimes.
Glad you enjoyed yourself.
I
I'm
did.
happy for you.
I did. And this
That wasn't very patronizing.
this
at all.
story is pretty awesome. Well, she knows I'm joking about how all Canadians are required to watch
course.
the Trailer Park Boys.
No, and I was very grateful that Sora responded.
It's like, aren't you a Rush fan? Aren't you? You got to be a Rush fan, don't you? Okay.
Shut up.
Wasn't Yes also Canadian? Or was that
Yes.
English?
Yes. Oh my God, are we going to do that? bit
B44
from
is
Animaniacs
Canadian.
again? Or, you know,
Who's Canadian?
B44.
no,
E44
guess who, not who.
and Justin Bieber and Celine Dion.
Yeah.
Lots of things are Canadian.
It is correct. Yes, was Canadian.
Okay, good. All right, now that we've settled that pressing piece of news, let's see,
Jeff
where do
should
we
be
go
weighing in
next?
on this. Wasn't it one of the Bachmans? And yes.
I just remember John Anderson was in it. Because he did some duos with Vangelis, but though I digress.
Bachman Turner Overdrive was a
Yes was
Oh.
formed in London in 1968.
yes was within. Oh no, it was Guess Who.
Yeah, you're thinking Guess Who.
Guess
Wayne
Who was
Bachman and
Bachman
all
Turner
those guys, yeah.
Overdrive guys. Yeah.
Excellent. All right, so you ready for a moral conundrum?
Thank
Yes.
you.
Okay, let's see. Where are you?
Yes. No. Guess Who.
Okay, so I saw this, and I may be all by myself in this position. I fully expect to get a lot of hate from chat and everybody else, but that's okay. I can handle it. Massachusetts preschool teacher fired after Libs of TikTok exposes her allegedly filming OnlyFans content in school. Okay.
Allegedly.
So this is from January, and I just came across my desk, and I was looking at this thing. So she's a school teacher, and supposedly she produced some OnlyFans content at school, and Kaya Rychek decided, for the sake of the children or something, I need to contact this woman's employer and tell them what an unsavory employee she has. Now, to my mind, feels a lot like cancel culture. And let me clarify what I mean here by this. The picture that they give here as sort of an example is, she's in like a bathroom and it's blurred out. And this is obviously like, some bathroom at the school. And she's like, oh, being naughty at work and whatever. I don't feel like just because she was making some money on the side doing an OnlyFans thing that she's necessarily a threat to the kids. I don't think she did anything wrong. Now, she may have broken all kinds of employee agreements and things with the school, and the school has every right to fire her if, it becomes public and she can't do her job, or just because, right? Because it's in her employee agreement. But what was it that motivated Libs of TikTok to pick up the damn phone and turn this woman in and get her fired? That's the question, because I'm not so sure I feel good about this in a I don't support people being canceled way. Go, Prospero.
If she's on school property, obviously what she was doing was I guess misuse of her access to school property.
Yeah.
Would be how I would put it. I don't know why Libs of TikTok wanted to join in cancel culture. Unless they have some connection to the school. But I would think that would be done privately. I'm kind of surprised the school doesn't have security cameras that would wonder why she was going. Oh, look, she changed her hair and her clothes and she's going in the bathroom.
Well, it looks like she just sort of flashed the camera and took a selfie in like the private bathroom that the teachers have access to.
Yeah,
there's nobody around, and there are not going to be cameras in there.
Yeah, I mean, it's not exactly the wisdom that I'd want to see displayed by a person teaching in an elementary school.
Yeah.
But ratting her out makes the TikTok kind of the long distance tattletale.
Yeah. Sora, I feel like you have an opinion here.
Did she brag would be the other question.
Go ahead, Sora.
So as a teacher, she's in the higher position of like she's going to be held to a higher standard because she's a teacher. She's a person that should be a person of trust. And so being on school property and doing this, she is an agent of the school. It does feel like in terms of the Libs of TikTok, it feels a little bit scummy if at no point did this. At the end of the day, do not associate your sex work with minors in any way, point blank, period.
Sure.
You filming this in your school where your preschooler filled with kids is gross. I'm sorry. I don't care. You want to be an OnlyFans and flash your boobs in a public setting like a Starbucks bathroom, for example, where it's like, it's not a school setting. Or your home, or you want to do anything there. That's fine. Whatever. It's in this case, it's a little bit, in my opinion, I think that it's the wrong place and it can, I don't know, invite people to be looking in on okay, well, what possible in your photos, maybe she's taking photos in the classroom, is there any personal information of children in there? Can I get access to that information? Am I able to find these children? I know that, again, it's a little bit far-fetched, but at the same time, there's a lot of creeps out there, and there's a lot of people who are putting a lot of information of their children. Maybe all you need is a last name, and then you find a parent's Instagram, and you find their kids, and suddenly you have access to all of this kitty content
Yep.
for your pleasure, and you as the creep just need to find, just looking for OnlyFans models and content creators who are doing it in a school.
You got a better chance than Instagram, actually, given the news we got more recently about Instagram. So
yeah, well,
could I make a comment about this?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think we're all going to make several more comments about it, but your turn, Skep. Go.
I was going to say that the aspect of the freedom of speech thing and cancel culture, I'm not unsympathetic to that at all. I think you raise a good point. Here's the thing. If somebody comes in and is working for an outfit and they've signed something, and it's typically something like a standards of conduct, okay, that in fact that's exactly what we had to sign in the military, saying that we would adhere to certain standards of conduct, certain basic standards of conduct and honesty and stuff like that. It was kind of mom and apple pie stuff as far as I was concerned. But if she signed something like that saying that she would adhere to that standard and understood that this was a prohibited type of activity, if she had reason to expect that, if this was disclosed to her employer, that she would be in violation of a standards of conduct agreement that she signed, then they might have cause to fire her because that was conditioned in the contract. Of the employment contract. So
morals clause.
Yeah, and I guarantee she's exempt. So
there may be a morals clause. Massachusetts can be funny about that. There's a lot of Puritanism.
The courts are insane about that these days. You never know what a court's going to do these days. Tell me that's not true.
No, you don't. And
that Alabama ruling, that threw me for a loop.
Yeah, it did. It absolutely did, but it was typical John Roberts.
I know. I'm so
squishy
wise.
Squishy.
I'm so wise.
He's such an asshole. Yeah. Thank you, W. And I'm not sure Kavanaugh's going to be much better, but Massachusetts can be peculiar. Blue laws persisted in Massachusetts beyond states that you would think that they would still exist in. And there can be morals clauses in contracts.
Okay, morals clauses are fine. I'm not debating that school had every right to fire her. And I'm not.
Oh, it's the ratting out.
The only part about this that I find interesting is the part about that Kaya Rychek felt it necessary to call the school and get this woman fired. Now,
does this woman have any prior interaction with Kaya Rychek?
That's a good question, but even if it's a retribution thing, I still kind of wonder. So there was a case that maybe you guys remember from about 6 years ago of a woman named Allison Rapp, who was a spokesperson for Nintendo North America. Mm-hmm. Allison Rapp was doing her job perfectly well, going out, going to conferences, doing all the things she's supposed to do. On the side, she was working as a high-class escort. Mm-hmm. And people decided that they needed to make sure that Nintendo America knew about this. And in that particular case, where you're talking about being a spokesperson, for a company, those morals clauses get really clear-cut, right? Because you're the representative of Nintendo North America working as a high-class escort, or just an escort, whatever, a sex worker, not such a good thing considering what your day job was. That's an instant sort of firing type thing.
Oh, ditto here.
You're right. In this particular case, though, it's the question of, before you say something, the rules are, should it be said? Should it be said by me? Should it be said by me now? And I kind of wonder, if you had standing in any way, like if you were a parent of somebody going to the school or any number of other sorts of things, I can totally see this being a big deal. But, unless she's like the lunch lady and getting her lady juices places that are unsanitary for the kids, or any number of 1,000 other possible things that are wrong, right? You could just think of 1,000 different ways this could be wrong, but without knowing more, it just feels like somebody who should be sensitive about cancel culture might have thought slightly harder about whether it was really her job to do this. Now, she could put her stuff out on libs of TikTok, and then if the parents find out and stuff, that's fine. Inevitably, this woman's going to lose her job anyway. That's just going to happen.
I think turning her in was an act of frustration.
It just seems weird to me. I
think that was an act of a frustrated person who is an ideologue in her own right. And it happens to be one we tend to more or less agree with, but
and one who's been hounded a lot.
Yeah, but I don't need to beat this to death. I mean, Sora is absolutely right. You're doing this in the proximity of kids. It just feels wrong. You know, there's a lot of it just feels wrong. It just feels wrong for me, for her to have made that phone call. For her specifically, not anybody else, but just her. And it feels weird that she's doing this at school around the kids. I don't like any part of this.
No, I'm trying to figure out which is the least worst.
But I think less of libs of TikTok than I did before I knew this. This, in my opinion, knocks my estimation of her from stand-up gal to I'm keeping an eye on you. But keep posting all the liberal cell phones. You know, you keep doing your day that.
People can have feet of clay too. People can make fuck ups and be otherwise good people every once in a while. So,
yeah. Okay.
That's what I think this is.
Ronald Reagan and gun legislation in California.
Just mistaken judgment.
I thought this might generate some.
Everybody's got a bad day.
Is what
oh God, RFK, why are you talking spontaneously? Jesus. Sometimes the internet is a mistake. Let's just kill that tab so that never happens again. All right, so let's see. Where were we? Driver rescued, GPS. Oh. Okay, you're going to love this. So I was thinking about the whole skepticism thing, right? Because I consider myself to be a skeptic. And I think, Skep, you consider yourself to be a skeptic. It's in the name.
It's kind of
baked into the name. But, you know, with the whole pandemic thing that happened, the whole idea of being a skeptic got a little confusing, right? So there's a lot of people who were traditional skeptics, and they're not the ones making well, you're not the boss of me. You're not going to give me this untested thing. You know, that's a different kind of skepticism. That's really more just reacting, right? But a lot of people took anybody who seemed like a skeptic and threw a whole bunch of mud on them. So there was a conversation that took place on a show called The Skeptic's Guide to the Universe, which is one of the OG podcasts I used to listen to all the time. They are on episode 930. And it's Dr. Stephen Novella and some other people in his family. And they used to have, what's her name? Rebecca Watson on. And you could see her going further and further sort of to the left as you could just hear her rolling her eyes when the boys would talk. That's sort of the reaction. She's gone now, and they've added in Cara Santa Maria.
I used to watch that when she was on.
It's a good podcast. And so they were actually talking about like the label or the brand of skeptic a little bit. So I wanted to play just a little bit from episode 930 of SGU.
Right.
You know, after doing tons of interviews and interviewing a ton of people and learning a lot about the world, I've realized that the word skeptic and the word skeptical is just seriously misunderstood by people who don't understand the skeptical movement.
Mm-hmm.
It's been co-opted basically by people. People are being called skeptics when they're denialists. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, you don't have to agree with his politics.
We did an interview
the point
recently.
Still stands.
It was great. We did this interview for the Skeptic's Guide to the Future book in D.C. And the person that interviewed us, when he heard the word skeptics, like, look at this title of this book, Skeptic's Guide. You know, he was like, what are these guys? Like a bunch of like deniers of, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, it has gotten a tad confusing, I think, for most people because I consider myself to be a skeptic in that I try to be open-minded, but I try to be very analytical and skeptical about claims that people make. And given all of the UFO stuff that's in the news lately, I was thinking I might need to dust my skeptic hat off, and maybe before we got into that, we might want to have just a brief discussion about what sort of the skeptic thing is. To my mind, things have changed a lot since I was a kid, because it used to be humans are imperfect observers, and relying on humans as a source of evidence is a terrible idea. I mean, you can prove that with a game of telephone. You can take 10 different people, show them the same thing, and see that they just suck when it comes to being
studies on eyewitness statements. We got about a 33% chance of getting it right.
The gold standard were things like, the platinum standard is physical evidence. Mm-hmm. The gold standard is video and or photographs. Now, with all the stuff that's happening with AI and the ability to fake things, we've reached the point where now it's kind of like, well, it's so easy to fake the videos and the photographs. I almost feel like if you have an observer who's a trained observer, who has gravitas and has no conflicts of interest, to my mind, that's actually better evidence now, if you're being a skeptic, than the damn videos. Anybody can make a video and show it to me. I'm not going to. Right. You're going to show me a video of flying saucers landing in the middle of a field in Indiana. It's not going to change my mind one little bit. Not in 2023. Right.
Yeah, Klaatu.
But if you have,
you're just going to go like a nice movie effect.
But like, for instance, with the Biden crime family, when Bobulinski was the guy making the claims about things that were going on with Hunter and their business, I'm like, okay, well, former Navy guy, stand-up dude, good record. He's a guy who seems more believable.
Oh man, and they destroyed him.
Yeah, so being a skeptic is really hard in the age of AI, right? So we've got a bunch of these government people coming around claiming that there's all this UFO disclosure stuff going on. Just looking at the UFO stories that have been on Fox 11 hours ago, 3 days ago, 4 days ago, May 31st, May 27th, there's been UFO stuff in the news on like a slow drip for the last several days.
Especially on Fox, because, oh, honey.
Not just on Fox.
Well, but yeah, I know, but they really need attention.
Well, Michael Schellenberger has been involved in a lot of this stuff.
Yeah, he has been. And I mean, I would class him as not a patsy, but
no, he's kind of a skeptic in a way. I mean, he's been a skeptic about a lot of climate stuff. He tries to come off as being like, I'm a rational dude. I think he's pretty much a skeptic, meaning open-minded to things, but looking at it critically. But he and other people like him have been interviewing a lot of these former government people with Bobulinski-like levels of gravitas, who are making these claims about us having up to a dozen UFOs that we're trying to reverse engineer. Now, what am I supposed to do with my little skeptic brain and my, I don't have access to this stuff. I haven't seen physical evidence. This doesn't really convince me, but it's not like I can exactly ignore it. It
was like Tucker in his second episode on his Twitter cast, I guess.
Yeah.
Let's call it. Wasn't saying that there were aliens. He was saying what's amazing is there was no traction on the story.
Right.
None. He said that used to be what any newspaper would go, yikes, bombshell. It wasn't just the stuff of the National Enquirer or, the little quarter sheet rags that were on the shelves, with the crappy stuff.
Mm-hmm.
This was making headway, kind of like the Wall Street Journal story about Instagram. Crickets. It's almost eliminating now what story might come out of one particular sphere and get zero traction, absolute zero traction across the board in the rest of the media. You would at least be printing her responses.
Yeah.
Even just 5 years ago.
Well, in 2020, the British started opening up a lot of their UFO stuff. Yeah. Again, convincing me that there's extraterrestrial life, that's not hard. Convincing me that they actually have the means and the time and the interest in coming here, and then after all of that travel that we're able to shoot them down with a Sidewinder missile, that's a big ask, as they would say, to try to convince me that that's a thing. But at the same time, I would be stupid to completely disregard statements made by credible people.
Absolutely. I mean, now somebody could be running a long con on them. I don't know.
Yeah, it's a great distraction if, all these, if something about the Biden crime family just dropped.
Look at the Piltdown Man.
That is my theory, is that this was done as nothing but bread and circuses for the proletariat. And just throw some raw meat out there and let them have at it. Now we'll do UFOs. UFOs are always good for a laugh. But it was only a dream. It's going to turn out to be nothing.
I can see Kirk on a pool table right now with a gat.
Space is really big. It's way, way too big. It's so big. It's bigger than bigness.
Well, I kind of smelled Piltdown Man about this. The whole. Ooh, look what I found.
Well, I have a story along those lines.
Look over here.
I think I think I'm going to use that as a segue, because Piltdown Man is a great segue to this piece.
All right.
These are not government officials, and they're not what I would call credible.
Southern Nevada is abuzz tonight with stories about the crash of an unknown object and the alleged sighting of strange creatures in the backyard of a Northwest Valley home.
So it was last night that 8 News investigator David Charnes reported about how Metro Police responded back on May 1st after receiving a strange call from a very frightened family. Well, our report generated a global response, and now piecing together the sequence of events has been kind of tricky, in part because the primary witnesses have been almost as elusive as the beings they say they encountered.
It's like they don't want to talk about it anymore. But here, I'll let it play out for a moment.
Chief Investigator George Knapp is as perplexed as the rest of us, George.
As you know, this is not our first UFO rodeo. We first heard about the incident in early May via the Metro Police grapevine. The incident has a lot in common with other bizarre cases from around the world: an alleged crash, strange beings, and bits and pieces that don't make sense. But the police took this seriously, and so do we.
Just before midnight on April 30th, skywatchers across several western states saw a bright fireball streak through the heavens.
Because that never happens unless it's an extraterrestrial craft.
A police officer working in the Northwest Valley caught a glimpse of the colorful object on his body cam. At nearly the same time, a Ring camera in the area recorded a strange noise and what sounds like a crash. One family living in a ranch-style home had a much closer view of the object. Two brothers and their father were working on a vehicle in their yard when they caught a glimpse of a sparkly object as it came crashing down, then were hit by what they describe as a shock wave. One of the witnesses, a young man named Angel, has stated when the brothers looked into the yard where the object landed, that spot was obscured and blurry, as if by unknown form of camouflage. What they saw next prompted a frantic call to 911.
So there's two people or two subjects that are in your backyard?
Correct, and they're very large. They're like 8 foot, 9 feet, 10 foot. I don't know. They look like aliens to us. Big eyes. They have big eyes. Like I can't explain.
I totally believe this guy.
Sir, have you been imbibing anything this evening?
And they're not human. They're 100% they're not human.
8 News Now investigator.
So
I'll have what Miguel is having.
It's interesting that they've got George Knapp on, because if you followed any of sort of the ufology, alternate Art Bell, coast to coast kind of thing, George Knapp's he's actually a pretty famous dude, sort of in those circles, but he's at the same time he's an accomplished radio person. So I mean, he's got a pretty darn good voice for radio. George Knapp's, he seems to me to be, as such people go, not necessarily trying to sell snake oil, but maybe he could listen to a few more episodes of Skeptic's Guide to the Universe. So anyway, George Knapp is like a guy who's got a certain amount of gravitas in the UFO community. And so the fact that they've got him on staff at this Nevada station might have something to do with the fact that that's why they chose to cover this story as opposed to not cover it. So these kids, when there was an object, some sort of bright object in the sky, made this call, made these claims, and the sparkly object, where is this sparkly object? Well, apparently they can't find it. There was a claim that some of the aliens got on like a skip loader sort of thing and started trying to drive it, which makes absolutely no sense whatsoever.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it is pretty darn awesome.
What in the hell is in the water?
Yeah, I think maybe they need to check the freshness of their rye flour or something.
Yeah, there's ergot poisoning going on here.
So, I don't know. I don't necessarily just believe stuff just because a bunch of kids say it, certainly, because these are not what I would call strong, credible observers. But
I know what I saw on the camera because I've seen it all over the world from film taken. Also, that sound.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody had the sound barrier break over them.
But who can believe anything that's on video now?
I understand you could cook that, but the long shot off the cops thing looked like, a 1,000 bits of meteor that we've had hit. And that same thunk. Of course, people have had the sound barrier broken.
Yeah, there was I guess there were some F-16s that did it over the East Coast recently. That was another story.
Yeah, but you can also have the sonic wave from a large enough object. Like if there was a jet-sized piece of a meteor coming down, excuse me, at a certain rate, your jealousy windows are gonna rattle.
Yeah. Well, you won't be able to guess where that lands within 100 miles. I mean, it's actually almost impossible for something at high altitude moving like that to guess where it comes down. And it certainly isn't going to be in some kid's backyard. Yeah, it's not. That's not going to happen.
Unless it makes a seismic impact, like in Russia. Like where your seismologist can kind of pinpoint where it is.
Yep.
It's not going to matter because you don't know how long the arc on that thing was and how much of it burned off before it went thud. And there is an ordinary looking, maybe a little shiny rock in somebody's backyard.
Yeah, but would the aliens survive a crash like that to begin with? I don't think they'd be getting up and operating heavy machinery right away.
They probably weren't up in the atmosphere.
Do you know how many of these stories I've heard, listening to the radio late at night, driving around in California? How many of these I've heard? I still remember all of the Dr. Lear stuff about the people who had like the weird implants that they found, and they'd remove them and send them off to a lab. And of course, there's never any physical evidence. There was one guy who actually claimed that he found this alien craft, and they had this terrible photoshopped picture of this weird alien thing, and that they took the body of the alien and he kept it in his freezer. But it was like a big chest freezer in his garage, but he started hearing this terrible screaming noise and all this stuff. And of course, months go by, there's no spaceship, there's no body, there's never any physical evidence. There's just not. And that's kind of what I want to see. You really need, if you want to convince me, at the very least, you're going to need to do like they did with the Challenger disaster. And, they brought Feynman in and said, essentially handed him a bunch of evidence to lead him to a conclusion about the O-rings.
Yeah.
And you need somebody like that, somebody who has no conflict of interest, who has absolutely impeccable reputation, short of just opening Area 51 and having an open house where people can just go look at these damn things. You need something like that. It's just not enough to convince me this crap that's being spewed in the news right now. With all due respect to Michael Schellenberger, because I really like his work.
I think maybe what Schellenberger is concerned about is the fact that nobody is curious about what these former members of the military, nobody's going and asking the questions that need to be asked. And that's
Like, nobody wants to get to the bottom of it.
No,
I like Green Badger Outdoors comment. Quick, Klaatu, jump on the skid steer and let's get out of here.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know, it's
I'll
just,
take meth for 500, Alex. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, and they always make fun of Alabama and Mississippi. You know, it's always some toothless Southern idiot who sees the UFO. Yeah, well, no, that's not the case. A lot of these sightings have been in the desert Southwest for years in California. And it's, you know, possibly because Nellis Air Force Base has been testing shit, y'all.
Yeah. I have a new thing to make you angry, Prospero. You want to talk about Uganda?
Sure.
Come on, you want to talk about Uganda. So everybody remembers this clip, of course.
They're not going to criminalize homosexuality.
Discussion on the Morning Breeze on NBS television.
This is actually Ugandan TV. Everybody knows this meme, right?
We're also weighing in on the raging debate on homosexuality in Uganda, which is taking another twist today, with questions as to whether Uganda is indeed becoming a safe haven for homosexuals. We bring in the studio this morning one of the gay rights activists, Mr. They call you Mr. Pepe Julian Onzima. Thank you for coming in.
Thank you.
Good morning. Why are you gay?
Yeah.
You are gay. You are.
Okay, so this is Uganda like 10 years ago. Okay.
Cartman asking.
And then,
why are you gay?
yeah,
What?
so it's just, why are you gay? You are gay. This is Jose Julian Pepe Onzima. Okay.
You call yourself Mr.? I love that.
Yeah, that is it's fun to make fun of foreign cultures, isn't it? So, so then go forward 1 year from this, and then you'll see Mr. Onzima.
Police yesterday raided a Sora country hotel in Nigeria, a suburb in Kampala, and detained a group of suspected gay activists.
I am an LGBTI person, so my community is the LGBTI.
Should I call you Mr.?
Business.
Yeah, basically they went into this hotel and they arrested a bunch of people. That's what they do in Uganda. They don't take homosexuality well. Doesn't really. They don't like the cut of Julian Onzima's jib. So you fast forward to the current day, and the new Archbishop of Canterbury has some opinions about this whole thing. So the new Archbishop of Canterbury is, he's, I guess, the head of the Church of England, is pretty damn left-wing. And he didn't like what was going on in Uganda. So he made comments about this sort of stuff, essentially condemning the Christian church in Uganda for going along with the anti-gay legislation that's been coming out. Again, I'm not saying he doesn't have the right to have this particular position, but it just seems weird for somebody who's so liberal to basically be lashing out at these other Christians. I mean, if you want to convince them of something, isn't there a better way, like go there and actually talk to them and do the thing that religious people do when they talk about doctrine?
Hit him in the face with a hatchet.
He actually called the head of the Ugandan church, he actually referred to him as a primate, which shocked me.
He's racist.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, he's a left-wing racist. What a surprise.
I know. How could such a thing ever happen?
Sora, have you ever heard of such a thing?
All cultures are different until they basically violate
British
one of our principles,
the
right?
British left are some of the most obnoxious. If you take the Upper East Side of Manhattan and magnify it threefold, you've got the Anglican aristocracy in Britain. They're just obnoxious. They don't think that black people can find their way out of a paper bag.
Is Uganda the new black face of white supremacy?
It might be. It might be. And also, if you are somebody who's prominent in Uganda, there may be a lot of different kinds of pressures being placed on that person to go along with this thing. That person may just be picking and choosing their battles and not want to end up going to jail or worse. I don't know how much freedom people have in Uganda to go against the government on something like this.
I would recommend to this Jose dude that he not try to be the Dietrich Bonhoeffer of Uganda, because it's going to work out even worse than it did for old Dieter. Just saying.
Yeah.
They're going to dead him with extreme prejudice.
There has to be a better way to do this. This isn't how religion is supposed to work. You don't just condemn people. You go and you try to meet with them and change their minds about stuff.
I don't know. This might be what happens when you shop religion to tribal culture. A Western European religion shopped tribal culture.
Well, I think the history of Christianity in Africa goes back far enough that there's the argument that Christianity in Africa is not colonialism.
No, I wouldn't say it is. I mean, I've always thought it was very well intentioned. I'm not trying to ascribe.
No, not well intentioned. Like, it took root there substantially before it did in large parts of Europe.
Well, yeah.
I don't know. I could be completely wrong. I'm a little out of my wheelhouse here. I mean, this might be a question for Skep.
What's that?
About Christianity in Africa. It's been there for a long time. It isn't so much colonialism as it developed in North Africa and spread.
North Africa, but not sub-Saharan Africa.
Well, yeah, sub-Saharan Africa is has a lot of the fundamentalist sects of Protestantism have gone over it with mission work and assistance.
But that's
work.
Protestantism.
That's certainly new.
That's all Protestant.
Yeah, it's Protestant. It's not Catholic.
It's not
Except
Catholic
in the French colonies and the Portuguese colonies. But even there, it's Protestant style worship. But the bulk of it's Protestant.
Right.
Which makes it 16th century at the earliest, and nobody was rooting around down there. Remember, Harry?
Yeah.
There's supra
Protestantism
and sub-Saharan.
Protestantism was not being exported, I don't think, much even in the 1600s.
Not till the 19th, really.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, well. White man bad. Okay. Anyway, I don't mean to get hung up on a narrowly defined point.
No, it's not colonialism.
Point of this.
But it is not colonialism.
Okay.
That's not the intent of it. I think there is what you end up with. I don't know. Maybe Skep will think I'm blowing smoke up my own ass. I think you end up with some of the mysticism that belonged in the tribes getting blended into Protestantism. Protestantism is more fungible than Catholicism.
Absolutely.
So you end up with peculiar admixtures, Harry, that could give you the magical mystery tour of love your neighbor except the homo.
My wife did a mission for she's a retired nurse in another life, and went over as a Nurse Without Borders, kind of thing through a big church, a big Baptist church in this part of Fort Worth, and went over there and got to see a lot of the stuff firsthand, and she confirmed that you've never been to a Baptist church like this. You've never heard a service like this, and the hymns are different. There's a lot of tribal chants and a lot of ritual in there, and customs and so forth that are just indistinguishable from what these people believe as far as and how they perceive the world.
I'd enjoy the food after the American Baptist thing anyway. Yeah, sign me up for hanging out with people and eating fried chicken and barbecue.
Peach cobbler, yeah, absolutely.
Oh, they have great food.
You can get a lot of really good sort of gas station barbecue. So a lot of those churches sort of do that stuff to raise money on the side. Even around here, I've been to some pretty damn good gas station barbecue where it just pops up and they're just making barbecue at a gas station on the corner, and it's usually like a Baptist church, and it's awesome.
And it's amazing.
But Lyle Lovett wasn't kidding with
No.
that song about preacher, please shut up, because we got the fried chicken and the beans and the there's good food waiting.
That's such a good album. Lyle Lovett and his large band is so good. But we have to finish the show, so we can't talk about Lyle Lovett's large band. Okay, so this is a thing which I didn't know existed. So the Archbishop of Canterbury has an opinion about this. He looks like such a fun guy. I don't know what the deal is. Have you ever seen this? This is a barge that they're using to basically house migrants offshore.
Oh, they're using those container housing.
I've never seen anything quite like this.
They can sail them to a different country. How convenient! It's
Yeah,
like a prison you could sink.
Have you ever seen the container housing?
Yes, we have them here.
Yes.
Yeah.
That is a barge with container housing on it, if I'm not mistaken.
I mean, I guess they could have bolted them together, but
It's an apartment building sitting in a canal, basically.
It sure looks prefab.
Yeah.
Very, very
just
prefab.
sail one of those into the harbor in Vancouver. Homeless problem solved.
Well, it's actually not a bad idea.
And it's a good looking thing.
I just made Sora sad.
Out there in the
You made me very sad.
You made the people in Richmond,
everybody
Canada
can look at
sad.
it. The homeless
Your view
people
just went to hell.
Puking out the windows. Yeah.
Okay, so there's a thing that I don't think most people understand, and I say this because I don't think I understood it fully until not that long ago. There's a difference between being sort of a refugee and an asylum seeker. So a refugee is somebody who's outside of this country who goes to like a U.S. embassy, fills out some paper, it says, this place I live is a pile of crap. I don't want to live here anymore. Can I come to the United States? And they say, well, we have a quote on how many people we can take in. We'll let you know. Somebody who basically has the coyotes help them, they cross into America, they're on American soil, they've been trained by these NGOs to say the exact right words to request asylum. And once they're on U.S. soil, they can request asylum and there are no quotas. There's nothing stopping unlimited immigration under that pretext. It all depends on what happens when there's a hearing to decide whether this person is granted asylum or not, eventually. And in the meantime, they get benefits and all sorts of other stuff. So keeping
cynical.
It's a misuse of what was.
It is a huge misuse of our generosity and humanity to do this.
Texas.
It is, and so any way that you can essentially keep people off of your country's soil is. These are the kinds of things that people are looking into. I can imagine seeing more of these kinds of things floating around. But I have a fun story for you because we only need to go just a few more minutes. I think you're going to like this next one. In fact, I'm pretty confident. U.S. lawyers sorry after ChatGPT creates bogus cases. A lawyer,
so much.
A lawyer. His kids basically said, who graduated from college, said, hey, there's this new thing. It's called ChatGPT. It's like a search engine, but way better. He decided as part of a court filing to use ChatGPT to look for cases to support his argument.
No.
Oh, God, his children.
Oh, no.
Of the cases that he cited in his court filing, 6 of them were ones that ChatGPT just made up. Because it's so agreeable. Oh, you want this here? I'll just make it for you. And it made up
text.
It made up cases.
Yep.
Let me see if I can find some of these. They included Peterson versus Iran Air, Varghese versus China Southern Airlines, and Shaboon versus Egypt Air.
Any of those.
The Varghese case even included dated internal citations and quotes.
God, that's like being caught Tubinesque.
Yeah, ChatGPT is so eager to please that when it couldn't find the actual cases, it just constructed them out of whole cloth. And this guy filed.
Kelsey Handler.
Yeah, this guy actually filed paperwork based on this. There was one major problem, however. Neither Avianca's attorney nor the presiding judge, Kevin Castell, could find the cases. Schwartz was forced to admit that ChatGPT had made up everything. The court is presented with an unprecedented circumstance, Judge Castle wrote last month. 6 of the submitted cases appear to be bogus judicial decisions with bogus quotes and bogus internal citations. The judge ordered Schwartz and his law partner to appear before him to face possible sanctions. In a filing on Tuesday...
You know,
in a mistrial, I'd hope.
Someone was going to do it. Might as well have been him.
Yeah.
You know?
Thanks. You did a service.
He does. He said it. He does apologize for his deeply regrettable mistake.
Your children hate you, dude.
Yeah.
I mean, if they told you to do this, and you didn't even look into
It's probably how they graduated from school. It's like, oh, last year that's how I did all my papers.
And maybe he's just used to being surrounded.
Only
by
half kidding.
White women.
Yeah.
To make statistics and shit up all the time. So it's like this is like the Shannon Watts version of ChatGPT.
Well, to answer your question, Green Badger Outdoors, I don't know how much longer this guy's going to have his license. And as far as gas station sushi goes, a long time ago, I did kind of make a habit of going to Safeway at midnight and buying the sushi from the end of the day because I really like sushi. So I was eating supermarket sushi that was about 12 hours older than it should have been. I'm not saying this was the smartest thing I ever did. I mean, I only got kind of ill a few times.
And they say Green Berets are brave.
I'm sorry, but the rest of the Marines are crayon eaters.
Yeah.
Excuse me, but Harry just demonstrated he's one of them.
I can be pretty stubborn when it comes to sushi. If I want to eat sushi, I'm going to eat sushi.
Sick a few times.
Well, you know, me and food poisoning it's a thing that happens.
I get thinking maybe the first one, but after the second one.
After the second one, I stopped.
You said a few times.
Yeah, you know, okay, I'm not from the South. This whole few, handful, several, peck, you know, batch, bunch, a meso times.
More than 2.
Yeah. Okay. I'm glad we fixated on the important thing, but just don't be this guy.
No, you don't be. Your face in a wood chipper more than once.
I get all of my restaurant advice from ChatGPT. You know what? We've done it again. We've done our 2 hours, and I think I can let everybody go to sleep now. So thank you, panel. Thank you, chat. The zoo is closed. Good night.
Good night, all.
Good night.